the game or is dead at the end.
Right. Yeah, so the Rakdos Sacrifice, the game plan, get in some points early, get on the battlefield early, and make sure that those claims convert into game wins, not mulligans. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, virtual dead cards are very similar to actual dead cards.
You can't take them with you. Seeing some really awkward openers. So we've already seen Baumeister, mulligan. Dore is looking at a 5-lander. That is rough. Mulligan on both sides.
6 looks a bit better for Dore. Baumeister's 6 is looking like a trash. Gonna send that back for a 5 in hopes that as a playable one. What do you put back here if you're Max?
Got 3 lands, 2 are passages. Either a 3-drop or a land is what I was thinking. He's going with the 1. I kind of do like this. Lets you play passage on 1. You can decide if you want a 2-drop. If you draw a land, you can just cast your 3s. I dig that.
You can't see my face, but I'm doing like the dude abides nod. Like, yeah, when that's Gordon back. You know, once you do it, it actually makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it wasn't my first thought, but I saw it and I was like, you know what? I understand why Max is 5-1.
Yeah.
That's just a nice play. Baumeister on a 5, opening up with Growth Spiral into Uros. Even though it starts on a few cards, it can become many. This is a very good setup.
Oh, for sure. And Opt is even pretty good here, too. It's just more food for Euro. Kind of keeps the velocity churning. Now a tough spot for Max, because he can play that Fabled Passage tap, so he can guarantee a 3-drop next turn, or he can go ahead and play Priest of Forgotten Gods. But it takes so long to get the Priest online that maybe it's correct to just go ahead and start playing your 3s next turn.
It's interesting. Dore has picked up 2 1-mana spells, but neither of them are really close to mattering just yet. Village Rites claim the Firstborn. We're waiting for some things to be happening on the battlefield before those can be leveraged. And Dore is going to go with the Fabled Passage, going to get the 3-drops online before the Priest.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing here just what I was talking about, how Claim the Firstborn just doesn't really do anything right now. Like, it's one of those cards that you kind of have to holster until the late game. You love seeing Claim the Firstborn in your hand with stuff like Priest of Forgotten Gods against, like, the Mirror or aggressive decks like Mono Green or Mono Red, because you're able to steal one of those cheap creatures. Here, you have to wait until Euro is cast from hand and then cast from the graveyard, or a big Shark Typhoon, or. And the longer you wait, maybe it'll become effective later, but maybe it doesn't.
See Corey Growth Spiral into Uro. Hand is an Opt and an Island. Hoping for some help off the Opt. Dore is now going to deploy Woe Strider here on turn 3. Nice pickup. Baumeister finds Shark Typhoon off of that Opt.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice pickup. And with him being so low on resources, this might actually be one of the spots where I wouldn't mind casting Shark Typhoon. And if Baumeister was actually not looking for ways to fuel the Euro from the graveyard, this might be an easy cast Shark Typhoon on turn 4, honestly. But because he's so low on resources, he has to put food in the graveyard for Euro.
I'm really tempted by this 4/4 just blocking the Woe Strider. You're saying that's not doing it for you?
I mean, I think it's fine, but he's, again, if let's say that you just like draw land off Euro, or sorry, draw land off Shark Typhoon and draw like nothing next turn. Let's say you draw 2 straight bricks. I think you just lose the game. But I guess you're going to lose the game anyway if you cast Shark Typhoon and then draw 2 bricks. So, fair point. Maybe that's why you always cycle it. You're right.
Baumeister is not interested in either our plays. It's going to be a scry with the Castle Vantress. And this actually has to do with Dore not attacking with the Woe Strider, so that does change the equation. We see a Fabled Passage and another Shark Typhoon. Baumeister's got a land rolled up. He's going to draw the Shark Typhoon. Are we going to see the enchantment?
Oh, come on,
we
Corey. He even has the second one. You could just cast both of them.
It is really interesting, because Shark Typhoon with only 1 card, that's slow going against that Priest of Forgotten Gods. It might be tough to get just 1 Shark off the cycle going, too. We'll see how that plays out. We see Dore using Village Rites on that Goat, going to draw 2 cards. Now his hand has progressed quite a bit.
Yeah, the Village Rites does some really cool stuff in this Rakdos Sacrifice deck. It was one of the cards printed recently that I was excited to try out in these sacrifice style strategies. But the current place that we're in right now, where Max is kind of in a holding pattern, just waiting for Corey to do anything, just kind of content playing some Woe Striders, playing a couple creatures here and there, but like doesn't really want to get anything eaten by Shark Typhoon, but also just has Priest of Forgotten Gods active in case things go south.
So here's another Woe Strider, another goat. An attack with the first Strider. It's become a little bit more expendable. Also, the Priest is active here. Baumeister is going to make a 4/4 Shark. Not expecting that to be able to block. There goes the Priest. Sacks Woe Strider and Goat. Corey draws Island off the cycle. Not much in the way of help there. Woe Strider connects. Baumeister to 16. A Fabled Passage off the top. So we have Shark Typhoon, Opt, Growth Spiral. I think we have 3 cards towards Uro.
I think there's another Fabled Passage in there, but maybe not. Anyway, sorry. I was just gonna say that like we're in a spot where Corey's actually leveraging the phases really nicely. There's a full turn where he chose not to cycle Shark Typhoon, and then another turn cycle where he waited till mid-combat so that the mana couldn't be used off of the Priest of Forgotten Gods activation. So really love the sequencing from Corey here.
Dore is going to pre-combat another Priest of Forgotten Gods. Just getting some food online for the first one before attacking with Woe Strider. Once again, Baumeister is going to cycle a Shark Typhoon. Leaves 2 mana up. So it's a 4/4 Shark. Not much reason in making it larger than that, because it's either getting eaten by the Priest or it's not.
Right, and you also want to keep it kind of medium-sized anyway, in case the worst thing happens and like you get completely dumpstered by a Claim in the Firstborn. A 4/4 is the perfect sizing because it doesn't deal you too much damage if the worst thing happens, but also it can block Woe Strider without any trouble.
Here is a nice one-of. With the floating mana from Priest of Forgotten Gods, Dore is going to flash in Liliana's Standard Bearer. A nice little 3/1 draw to.
Yeah, we've seen cards like that in the past. Generally, I think it's Caller of the Hunt was the first one that I remember. A 3-mana 2/2
Caller
flash.
of the Claw.
Caller of the Claw, that's right. Where it would give you like a refresh if your board got wiped by a Supreme Verdict or something. It's awesome to see so many really cool new cards showing up, especially ones that are sacrifice oriented here. And that big draw there from Max doing a number on Corey.
Baumeister down to 8, go back his way. Uro gets to escape now. I'll put him back to 11, draws an Ether Gust. Yeah, that might be a saving grace against one Claim the Firstborn, but there are 2 in Dore's hand.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well.
Here's Wilderness Reclamation.
Definitely in a lot of trouble here.
When Petty Theft using some floating mana in the end step, math just works out so that this is leaving up Ether Gust and Scry on Castle Vantress. It also kind of forces action on getting the Uro off the table here and not getting claimed. Anyway, Dore is just going to do some scrying. Going to respond to the Petty Theft, yeah.
Yeah, he sacked in response to Petty Theft, so it actually got rid of the Brazen Bar proper, just went straight to the graveyard.
So here's claim number 1. Gotta gust that.
Yeah, he can gust his Uro instead if he wants to, though. And then that gets rid of the claim permanently and allows him to recast the Uro next turn. But without the food to do it, I think that he just targeted to put it on top, and that's going to do it right there.
Yep, so claim. Fought over with Gust. Second claim comes down. That's the game. And even gusting your own Uro, Corey really didn't have stuff left in the graveyard, so it would have to redraw into something. He wouldn't have died that turn, I suppose.
Yeah, there was not a lot to be done, because if he just draws Uro next turn, the best it's going to do is like cycle. I don't think there was enough food to even cast it from hand and then cast it from graveyard also. So it would have basically just been left casting it from hand to see the top card. And it's just not good enough. It's just too much.
Players sideboarding here. You saw Dore consulting Baumeister's list there. Remember, this is an open deck list tournament. MTG Melee tells you your opponent and what they are playing. Baumeister bringing in some Storm's Wrath, some ways to keep the battlefield clear is reasonable. Looks like one Night Pack Ambusher in the 75 this weekend. See some varying numbers on that. Dore taking a look. One Noxious Grasp currently in, one on the sideboard. A lot of splits. You see two Priest of Forgotten Gods over in the sideboard. Some hedges. With the Rakdos Sacrifice deck, everything is really contextual on an individual turn. You need the right spread of things. You see two of the Claim the Firstborn also going to the sideboard.
Yeah, interesting sideboarding there. Both players basically just trying to counterplay what's coming out of the sideboard from the other side. Corey probably wants a little more interaction. Max wants to figure out a couple more ways to interact as well, because the Team Rec decks do go quite over the top. But that aggressive start in the last game, definitely what you want to be doing here.
See Temple of Epiphany met by Gutter Bones on the topic of aggressive starts. Once again, Corey has Growth Spirals, kind of shocked to leave that up on turn 2.
Yeah, and with so many 1-drops here, you see Max actually went the opposite route this time, deciding to play the untapped land first to play the 1-drop, going far more aggressive, and I do like the slant, honestly.
Yeah, it makes sense. Here's Duress on turn 2. Baumeister will respond with Growth Spiral. That one worth a fair bit more than Negate. And the Duress will take the Negate, given no other options.
Yeah, unfortunately, Brazen Bar from hand is Brazen Bar and not Petty Theft, so you can't Duress it. But the Negate's a fine hit. Now that means the coast will be clear for that Witch's Oven to resolve very soon.
Field Passage goes off. Back to Corey Baumeister. Draws a Shark Typhoon immediately after being Duressed. That's a nice little sneaky shark.
Sneaky shark.
Here comes the front side of that Uro. We see the Fabled Passage that both players know about, and a Ketria Triome picked up. It's giving Corey some pause. Decides to put that land on the table.
Yeah, really taking on whether it was worth it to get the land on the battlefield or to hold it to cycle it later. But also there's some tension because if he plays the Fabled Passage, he could end of turn use Petty Theft to bounce a potential 3-drop or something from the opponent.
Dore considering a 3-drop, and that's going to be the play. Mayhem Devil and an attack with the Gutter Bones. Baumeister to 17, and now draws a replacement Negate.
All right, I'm calling it. This game is going to end with Corey at 1 life, dying to his own Blast Zone activation to kill a Mayhem Devil. That's how this game's going to end.
That's a very specific and bold call.
Yeah, but it's also weird, and I'm rooting I'm rooting for it.
I gotta figure Blast Zone goes off for 1 more than any other number in this matchup, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, take care of the oven, clearing up a lot of those more aggressive early drops. Okay, maybe it's lethal from Mayhem Devil, but it's on the Blast Zone is for 1. And it's just oh yeah, I forgot. See, it's one of those things even I forget sometimes where oh, you crack Fabled Passage, you take 1 from the Mayhem Devil. It's oh yeah, duh, forgot about that.
Yeah, I try to forget it's for both players. I watch a mirror and I just hope I never have to experience that again.
Yeah, it's like watching Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I think you mean the Crystal Skull. Or are you talking about actually witnessing the Ark and having your brain melted?
Yes.
Oh, I was making it different. I hope I never have to watch the Crystal Skull again.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's both play out nicely. I can only see Shia LaBeouf as young James Bond so often before I.
One is an appreciation for the content of the films, and one is a rejection. Gutterbone's gonna run head first into a 4/4 shark. Now we see
Ooh.
Cauldron Familiar and Witch's Oven show up. So there's some sacrifice fodder here to cut that shark down.
Yeah, I really like this sequence from Dore. It makes a lot of sense that he would go ahead and main phase this to take down that shark. The life total on Corey's side, not exactly in jeopardy at the moment, and making sure you clean up that 4-4 perhaps allows Mayhem Devil or something later to actually start attacking.
So Passage and Oven takes care of shark. Gutterbones returned to hand. Dore leaving the cat in the graveyard. You see the one counter blast zone is still up, so respecting that. Also respecting something like a Storm's Wrath. Back over to Baumeister. Couple lands. Negate and Brazen Borrower. See him play a tapped Breeding Pool. Passes the turn. Dore declines to bring the cat back. That's going to hang out in the graveyard for a bit.
It's pretty interesting. I would imagine that Dore wants to get the blast zone off the table as quickly as possible, but at the same time, you don't want to give your opponent more incentive to interact with you, because the more they interact with you, the easier it is to get Euro online. And so giving them reasons to interact with you allows them to gain some more value out of things like blast zone, which in turn gives them more value out of things like Euro. It's like a cascading effect,
right?
Especially for like such a small decision, you know.
The standard format is a lot about snowballing value and advantage, isn't it?
Yes, that is the whole thing, as they say.
Me and
now, if you're Dore, I would have loved for Dore to go for the Gigantha here, honestly. But he's going to use that mana to get back Gutterbones, I think.
Yeah, so the Blast Zone goes off. See, Cat's coming back because the Oven is untapped in response. Cat jumps right back in the Oven. So you see some Mayhem Devil points coming across. A little bit of Cauldron Familiar draining. Baumeister at 8 at the end of that.
Oh, my apologies. I thought Gutterbones, you could do it instant speed, and I thought that's why he was holding up mana.
Yeah, I wonder if you just actually grab Gigantha so seldom that it's something you forget about sometimes.
Yeah, it's not like it matches up well against Euro anyway. It's not like you can utilize that mana too easily either. Maybe with Castle Lockthwain or something.
Petty Theft on Mayhem Devil. You're going to see Dore sacrifice a couple things there. Brings back Cauldron Familiar, fires off Fabled Passage. That's 3 more points. Baumeister to 5. And now the Gutterbones comes back.
I'm just big stupid. Damage hadn't been dealt yet, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
It could have been just based off of the Petty Theft being fired off. Who knows? It happened now.
And now is what matters. Euro coming back from the graveyard here. This is going to pose some problems for Dore. Doesn't have a sacrifice outlet or a Claim the Firstborn. Let's see how he navigates through this Titan from Theros Beyond Death.
Kind of amusingly, Dore duressed a negate very early on in this game. Now Baumeister has a negate, but Dore's hand is just all creatures.
It's kind of the downside of bringing negate against a deck that has so few targets. The value of cards like negate drops significantly the fewer valid points of interaction you have with it. In this matchup, it really only counters like Claim the Firstborn, a handful of removal spells, and Witch's Oven. And then I guess Bolus of Citadel as well. That one is potentially problematic at times.
Well, we're just playing 2014 Magic is all it is. Sometimes your sideboard cards aren't very good. Not like Aethergust. It's not like main decking Aethergust.
It's not like main decking Mystical Dispute.
Right. Very wide battlefield for Dore now. We see Midnight Reaper, Gutterbones, a couple Cauldron Familiars. Baumeister's going to be attacking with Uro, though. Life total trending upward, actually, at this point in the game. You see him on 10. Draws a Ketria Triome, but expressing some interest in cycling that.
Yeah, not really able to... Yeah, not able to get through any damage here though. That Culture Familiar is like a super easy block for Dore because he's able to draw a card off the Midnight Reaper. Unfortunately for Baumeister, doesn't have a piece of removal here to kill that Midnight Reaper or anything, so it's kind of stuck in a holding pattern. He's like attacking with Euro, he's like gaining life and drawing a card and playing extra lands and stuff. And he's kind of getting there, but he's not really closing the game, and his life total is the one in jeopardy.
So here's Wilderness Reclamation. Baumeister considering, is it time to make a shark on my turn with some Reclamation mana? Would make
pretty large.
It could make like a 7/7 and still leave up Negate.
Yeah, don't hate that. Wouldn't even mind just making a 4/4 and also playing Brazen Bar to have two different flying threats. But knowing about that Mayhem Devil makes that a bit more sketchy.
And it's actually just going to be a Borrower on his own end step. Hiding the Typhoon. Dore picks up that Standard Bearer. Looking at a hand of Standard Bearer, Witch's Oven, Mayhem Devil.
The kind of small ball card advantage just doesn't really do a whole lot here, though, right? Just like in the face of Euro, Shark Typhoon, things like that.
Part of the issue is the only sacrifice outlet is the Witch's Oven, which is covered by Negate. You would love to have a Woe Strider.
Right, but like Liliana Standard Bearer is just not really going to do much here, right? Like it's just going to draw like one, maybe two cards in some spot.
Mm-hmm.
The game's not really about that small ball card advantage. Like it's about transitioning those extra cards into just the last few points of scrape damage, you know?
Right. All right, so the Oven, that gets negated. Dore considering attack and Baumeister just hovering that Shark Typhoon over the table.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate for Dore because the last few turns have been very kind to Baumeister finding another Shark Typhoon when he was mostly out of juice. And now that Midnight Reaper is going to get eaten.
So the Bones connects, like you mentioned. The Reaper is down. Baumeister to 7. Dore just with a bunch of dopey creatures as we go back to Corey Baumeister.
Yeah, not a sacrifice effect in sight, so that Mayhem Devil not looking so hot. But again, Baumeister is at 7. A bad attack or a bad turn sequence from him and a good turn sequence from Dore can change everything. And with him just drawing a couple more lands here, he's going to need some help off the top of the deck with either the Castle Vantress or the Ketria Triumph or some combination of both.
Team's going to come across. Just the Flyers connect. Called Familiar blocks Uro. Dore to 14. Here's a second Wilderness Reclamation. Corey's going to use these triggers, saving the Ketria Triome until after doing some scrying. Scries into another Shark Typhoon.
Yeah, you can float a ton of mana here still too, and cycle Triome and then cycle the Shark Typhoon. That may leave him somewhat vulnerable to a Claim the Firstborn if he does it for too much. But it might be worth it to do it for a bunch, but it looks like he's just going to keep scrying and do it for some medium amount instead.
Yeah, being very careful here, using this Castle Vantress before drawing off of that Shark Typhoon. Also, as you mentioned, not really interested in making the largest possible shark. So at this point, now we have the last Reclamation on tap. Once again, going to scry with Castle Vantress before drawing. So use Expansion Explosion. That one can hang out on top. No need to Shark Typhoon just yet.
Yeah, that's going to end the game next turn if Dore doesn't find much here. The Shark Typhoon can come down and surprise block the Mayhem Devil. It's not going to be much of a surprise because Corey did leave a card on top before cycling the Triumph. It's got to be either Expansion Explosion or Shark Typhoon. Those are basically the only cards you keep in that spot, other than maybe like a Scorching Dragonfire, which is also just a nightmare. Like it's all bad.
Dore, not a great draw steps, just going to main phase Castle Lochthwain. You see an attack with some creatures.
Oh, wow. Agonizing Remorse is a hot draw.
If it could hit the top of the deck.
Well, it's gonna hit the top of the deck, right? Oh, never mind. The Shark Typhoon's on. Never mind. So the cycling of the Shark Typhoon was gonna put the Expansion Explosion in hand, and the Agonizing Remorse could have taken that, but there's just too much like flying power on the battlefield, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, the Typhoon coming in instant speed. Yeah, the Remorse just couldn't cover enough.
Take a bite out of Cry.
Is that Scruff McGruff?
Probably.
Who is a dog.
The crime dog. McGruff, the crime.
Director Rob is trying to tell me that it's just McGruff, which I assume is a retconning of Scruff McGruff for people that are young and were not ready for Scruff McGruff.
It actually is a retcon of Scruff McGruff, like the old Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
I believe Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, 60652. That was the zip code in the ad that I watched 4,000 times when I was 8 years old.
All right, I'm just gonna let Twitch chat handle that one, because I don't know. Hey, but make sure to check out one of our sponsors, Carnox Chairs.
See, Chicago zip codes start with 6. In fact, Illinois zip codes tend to.
You can save 10% at checkout if you use Carnox.com/SCG. Carnox makes some really nice gaming chairs. I use them a lot when we were doing commentary on the SCG Tour, traveling around the country. I know we used them when we did Versus Live, back when I was doing Versus Live last year, and they are extremely comfortable and they're infinitely customizable. Great chairs, great company. Give them a
You know that the state of Alaska phone numbers only have one area code?
There's so few people there, dude.
I know it because an old person yelled it at me one time.
Yeah. I don't know what you're trying to... I don't know what you're getting at here, but I don't like it. It's just not...
All right, well, my goal was to make you uncomfortable. I've succeeded. Let's talk about Magic.
Yeah.
It's like Dore taking a mulligan. The Baumeister happy with a 7 for our decider. Dore mulliganing twice, it looks like.
Maybe. I think it was just the once. His 7 was like really close to keepable. 6 card is quite good. No 1 or 2 drop, but on the play with a couple of your best cards, as well as a Call of the Death Dweller to get one of them back should they die. Not so bad.
Yeah, you're right. It was a 6. Here we see Priest of Forgotten Gods on turn 2. The mana base cooperating a little bit more outside of the fact that there are no 1 mana spells in hand. But Dore gets to safely curve 2 into 3. Woe Strider is the 3 of choice.
All right, can I do a thing?
Woe
Strider. That's it. Like Rough Rider.
Well, isn't that more like Crossfire, the board game?
You'll get caught up in that. Woe Strider. Woe Strider. Yeah.
You could also do that with Growth Spiral, which we see Baumeister fire off.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Works on a lot of levels.
Have you seen that Twitter account that's just like every set of words that sounds like that you can say to like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me of that.
It's a very good account.
It is.
It actually reached the point where it jumped the shark and actually tweeted the phrase Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a couple weeks ago.
I saw that. All right, well, got a tough turn here for Corey. The obvious line is just like Reclamation plus Nightpack Ambusher, but like gaining some life with Euro, hitting the land drop so you can use Brazen Borrower. All these sound pretty good as well. And running the Nightpack Ambusher like head first into a Priest of Forgotten Gods, as the kids say, that ain't it, Chief.
Here's the front side of Uro. Baumeister up to 5 lands. Has Reclamation and Stomping Ground in hand. See Dore draws land number 4. So that is mana for Castle Locthwain. Extra lands, not the end of the world for Dore.
No, they're actually quite good. And this version with Gigant on the top end means that you're rarely going to run out of stuff to do with your mana. From, the escape costs on Woe Strider, activating Castle Locthwain. Some of your better cards are 3 drops, so you need to like play a 3 and a 1 drop in the same turn. A lot of stuff to do with extra lands here.
Cauldron Familiar into Mayhem Devil with a couple sacrifice outlets on the table.
Remember that thing I mentioned earlier where decks in this format don't really ever run out of steam? Most games end with one person still having like 3 or 4 cards in hand.
And this is big for Max Dore. Remember Corey Baumeister? We've seen him in the top 8 of the SCG Tour online, previously with Mono Green. We'll already be seeing Baumeister tomorrow. For Max Dore, top 8 here, obviously a nice chunk of change for today, but it does mean qualification or championship tomorrow. This is a big deal.
Corey with the oops. He should have oopsed it.
Should have replied with the Fabled Passage in response to the Devil there, took a damage.
Yeah, perhaps.
Here's Petty Theft on Priest of Forgotten Gods. See if that prompts a response. Start with the Priest activating on some other creatures, the Cat and the Goat. It's going to give 2 Mayhem Devil triggers. Baumeister to 12, still looking at Petty Theft on the Priest. That part's going to work.
Yep, and we are during the end step. Corey waited until the very last minute to cast the Brazen Bar's Petty Theft ability just because didn't want Dore to get full value out of the extra mana gain from the Priest.
Nice draw for Baumeister. Storm's Wrath.
Yeah,
gotta weigh his options.
Yeah, it feels like Storm's Wrath's like a pretty fine play here just because Mayhem Devil and Wolfstrider are both pretty powerful and they're great in conjunction with each other. But you don't really gain a foothold in the game. You kind of just hit the reset button, but you're passing turn after hitting your reset button. So Max Dore is going to be the first person to redeploy next turn.
Definitely got to be mindful of that. Baumeister also knows about that Priest of Forgotten Gods in Dore's hand. There's some incentive to try to tag that with the Wrath, too.
There's also some incentive to hardcast a Shark Typhoon, bro.
Not sure about that one. Baumeister's going to play that Stomping Ground tapped. Now, strongly considering Reclamation, that is where he's going to go.
Yeah, and he's dangerously low on time as well as far as his rope is concerned. He has no time banks, so if he doesn't make his decision in a swift manner, it will pass priority and maybe even pass the turn depending. Got to be really careful.
Back over to Max Dore. Pre-combat, just a swamp play and an attack with both 3-power creatures. Baumeister is going to make a shark to block, a 4/4 shark. Gonna jump in front of one of the creatures. Baumeister eyeing Mayhem Devil. That's where he'll go. We'll start to next. Baumeister to 9.
Yeah, but now he just has a fantastic target for Call of the Death Dweller. He can just get back to Mayhem Devil, and it gives it Death Touch. So he could kill that shark basically at any point he so chooses.
Well, isn't that a pretty big win for the player with Storm's Wrath in hand?
No, absolutely. He had to put so many more resources onto the table. Now Dore is going to get hit for 4. There's no way he's going to just sack something here. And then that Storm Draft's going to clean everything up nicely. Can't quite play the Euro, but we'll be able to play like Brazen Bar and Nightpack Ambusher on the next turn, or like the next turn cycle.
Massive swing for Baumeister. Like you said, Call of Death Dweller brings back Mayhem Devil. That Priest of Forgotten Gods, that's summoning sick. All this stuff was added to the battlefield last turn. And this is eyeballing that Storm's Wrath. It's kind of wild that Baumeister is considering the possibility of getting more for this card.
Yeah, I think he's just making sure that this isn't a complete dumpster. Like, if he plays this in the wrong spot, he'll end up losing the game at some point because of it. But like, this is the crux of the game. This is the turn where Storm Wrath gains the most value. If you cast it after this turn, you're going to be too far behind and you're going to lose because of it. But casting it before this turn also probably would have lost him the game to that Death Dweller plus Priest of Forgotten Gods turn that Dore had last time.
This is part of why he wanted to go now. You see Wolfstrider getting in a point off the Devil, doing some scrying. Couple triggers. Corey going to 7. A Rotting Regisaur left on top for Dore.
Well, Baumeister is at 7, and that claim to firstborn can technically give it haste.
Ooh, a combination strategy.
Yeah, it's unfortunately not going to work out in that way, more than likely.
And here's a problem already. Nightpack Ambusher showing up end step.
Right, but if he plays the Regisaur, he also has to claim the firstborn, otherwise he's going to end up having to discard it. So it might be time to just go. Play the Regisaur, give it haste, attack for 7. That either the Nightpack Ambusher has a chump block, or that Shark Typhoon has to come down for a chump block or double block.
Well, it looks like the Wolf Strider could escape as well. Though you do have to be worried about Wolf tokens showing up and really halting your ability to attack.
Right, and that's the thing. The Regisaur potentially forces a chump block out of the Ambusher, which otherwise is just going to bury you because you just can't apply enough pressure quickly enough. And in turn, the Euro starts coming back, etc., etc. It's, again, a snowball cascading effect.
Play for Dore is going to be escaping Wolf Strider. 5/4 is going to show up, going to bring a goat with it.
I would just like to point out one thing, but it's actually 3 things. Corey only has 1 card in hand, right? But because of all the different ways you can utilize different zones, he has a Euro in the graveyard, which he can cast at some point. He has a Brazen Borrower in the Adventure Time zone, which he can cast at some point. And even Max Dore has a different creature in a different commander zone with Gigantha. There's so many zones. What's happening?
Sounded like you just described what's happening. Players have access to a lot of cards.
That's true.
There's a Fabled Passage for Baumeister that's pain-free now as the Devils are down. Uro is going to escape.
It's my new band name. Devils
What's that? Devils are down. I like it.
Yeah, it sounds kind of metal.
See Fabled or a Castle Vantress put on the table by Baumeister, still hanging onto that Shark Typhoon. Nightpack Ambusher not interested in attacking, that's going to hang back. We see 5 mana floating before an untap with the Reclamation. And that's going to be scrying for Castle Vantress. We saw a very similar texture in game number 2. Baumeister is not going to give up this Shark for a lethal claim the firstborn if he's not under any pressure to do so. Going to keep a second Uro on top. Just the life gain is something that is appealing to him. Back over to Dore.
Also interesting to note that Baumeister has set his Blast Zone on 3. So at any point he could pop that to not only kill the Woe Strider, but it also kills his own Euro in case a Claim the Firstborn is used to steal it. So he's trying to play around a bunch of different little 1 and 2 card combos from Dore.
Yeah, that is really tight navigation because the Ambusher is immune to Claim the Firstborn, costs too much mana. You got a way to pop your own Uro. Also takes care of the Strider. Yeah, Blast Zone on 3 is great. And here's an attempt at Claim the Firstborn.
Yeah, might as well go ahead and pop the Blast Zone as well because the Woe Strider can just sack the Euro. So not only do you tag their Woe Strider, but you also get your own Euro off the table, which means the Claim the Firstborn has no effect.
So there goes the Blast Zone. See Witch's Oven. And we're going to see Regisaur shortly thereafter. No cards left to discard. At this point, though, the Ambusher is going to have a pretty easy job of blocking that Regisaur.
Right.
Those just wolf tokens.
Yeah, no spells even need to be played at this point. You can just make a huge-ish Shark. No cards in hand either. That's a very important thing for Dore. The only thing that really gets him out of this it is like a combination of things. It's not just one thing.
Borrower comes across. Corey Baumeister very close to locking up another top 8 here on the SCG Tour Online. You see a Wolf token showing up with the Ambusher, Reclamation trigger, some Castle Vantress scrying. to see for some riches to add to this Shark Typhoon Uro had. 2 growth spirals to the bottom, no need on that.
Yeah, really like the discipline of Corey here, not making just like the biggest Shark Typhoon imaginable. Just trying to dodge another threaten effect, like another Claim the Firstborn. Still can do it for like a reasonable amount here, and very much in the driver's seat at the moment, though.
See Castle Lochthwain for Dore, draws another Witch's Oven. That one's not making any dents on this table.
No, the only thing making dents on this table is Max Dore's fists, as he gets defeated by Team of Reclamation, arguably the most dominant deck in Standard in quite some time.
Might see Corey Baumeister make a table-shattering shark here.
There was a firefight!
Regisaur, attack. It looks like Corey's just looking for a 6/6 shark to trade. That works.
It's not bad. Alternatively,
and that's gonna do it. Max
Nice.
Dore has seen enough that shark trading that